and let's talk about this.
Or we'll see something and be like, oh, I bet this character is going to do this.
This video will be a little bit different from some of the previous ones, at least we hope. So we discovered something that both good stories and good YouTube videos have in common. We made this discovery just while we were preparing for today's video, and it's something that we haven't done in some of the previous videos.
So it's something that when we look at YouTube channels, a lot of channels, popular channels, use this strategy from mostly entertainment-based channels such as like Mr. Beast, How Ridiculous channels like that, all the way to mostly education-focused channels like Veritasium, and it's a strategy that we want to try to emulate as well.
So we're new to book writing, and in the same way we're also new to producing YouTube videos like this. So we're still learning the best way to do things, and what we're seeing is that both book writing and storytelling are, well, both book writing and YouTube videos,
right.
They're both storytelling, and they need similar skills to each other.
Now, there are also some key differences. So like here, we're not worried about a lot of the things that we need to focus on in writing. We're not worried about coming up with compelling character development or conflict. We're not going to manufacture conflict to make this an interesting series.
Oh, we don't want this to be a reality
TV show.
The
No.
producers come in and say, "Why don't you argue about this?"
No, we don't want this to be reality TV type content. Also, things like dialogue tags, paragraph spacing and formatting, things like that, we'll need to consider when we write a book. We don't need to consider that right here. But there are some things in YouTube videos that we can learn from watching other people who do their craft really well, and that we can try to mimic that and learn from them.
Just like as we're trying to develop our storytelling skills, we are learning from several different places, including online courses. We are reading works of authors who have been successful, and even to the point of just watching movies with active analysis as we're watching. I think many people would not want to watch movies together with us because of the way that we hit pause and let's talk about this.
Or we'll see something and be like, oh, I bet this character is going to do this, or predicting what's going to happen next.
Right, just looking at some of the formulas of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I like the way that you described movies as kind of being halfway in between the storytelling of books and the storytelling of YouTube videos, in that there is still an element of fiction, there is still the plot development, the character development in a movie, but without all of the details of paragraph formatting and dialogue tags and things like that.
Yes. So one of the things that we've discovered, and it's true in stories, in YouTube videos as well, this is what we said that we were going to talk about at the beginning.
Right.
It's something that we see in Jimmy Donaldson, who is Mr. Beast, as well as Derek Muller, who is Veritasium. They not only do this, but they have done videos talking about why they do this and how they do this and what it is that makes this strategy successful. And it's something that in our video is happening right now.
Right. So one of the first things that happened in this video is we said that we were going to share with you something that we discovered that was similar about both YouTube videos and the storytelling in books. And so that first statement that we made created an appetite of curiosity for something that would happen later in the video.
Right. And Mr. Beast does a really good job of this. In some of his videos, I think specifically of his series, kind of where he will look at various either cars or plane flights or hotels, vacations, things like that, on the scale of $1 to $100 million or something insanely expensive. And he has a bunch of stops in between where he shows what different things look like on this pay scale or whatever. And so he'll start off and say, we're going to see this $100 million house, but before we get there, we're going to see this $10,000 house, or And then, you go on to a $500,000 house, and then he's like, don't forget, at the end, we're going to see this $100 million house, but first, let's step on to this $5 million house. And he keeps you hooked for what's going to come next.
And that's one of the examples of the purely entertainment channels.
Yes.
Veritasium is on kind of the other extreme. It is very much focused on learning, understanding, how do we think. But he does something very similar in that in the opening, he will take whatever this topic is, and he will present, here is what most people think is true, but here's why it's not true. And that creates an appetite of curiosity. Well, if that's not true, well, now I really want to know what is true.
Right. And it's not just YouTube videos that have this kind of hook to them. Books have it as well. I've got a book here, The Hobbit, one of the greatest fantasy books of all time. If we look...
in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes. But if we look in the first 2 pages, 2.5 pages, Tolkien is kind of describing the hobbits, what their culture is like, who Bilbo Baggins is, and then towards the end of page 3, we are introduced to Gandalf. And he's talking, it says, Gandalf came by. Gandalf, if you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have only heard very little of all there is to hear, you would be prepared for any sort of remarkable tale. And then he goes on to talk about some of the things that he's heard about Gandalf, but he's hooking you in the first couple pages about here's what you can expect. You can expect remarkable tales. That's what I've heard about Gandalf, and don't be surprised if you hear some remarkable tales too.
Another example, C.S. Lewis's Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He doesn't wait until page 2 or page 3. He goes right off in the second sentence. First sentence, once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Just basic, foundational, here's who we're talking about. And then immediately, this story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. And then he goes back into, they were sent to the house of an old professor, and just goes back to the beginning of the story. But he made a promise of something happened to them, and that's what this story is about, and you want to know what that is. So we introduced that curiosity, gave an appetite for what was coming next, and if we can manage it, it is our intention that the videos on this YouTube channel will follow a similar format to help us develop that skill in storytelling. And as you are watching along with this video series, feel free to look for that, and feel free to join along in our journey. If you're interested in learning about the art and the craft of storytelling as we're going through that journey, or if you're just interested in seeing how does this pair of people who were father and son and now working together, how do they work together? What kind of conflict do they not invent? It just happens naturally. We invite you to join us, subscribe to this channel, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video.